Hello, Deanna here, and thanks so much for being here. So today's video is going to be a book review, and the book I'm reviewing is November 9th by Colleen Hoover. So I just picked this one up recently as I am on vacation and I wanted something kind of fun and interesting to read while I was on vacation, and I picked this one up on a whim. So I'm going to go ahead and read out a summary that I wrote on what this book is about. The date of November 9th has been seared into the memory of Fallon forever now. As a recovered burn victim, she still carries the scars of that brutal night, literally, mentally, and emotionally. Then she meets Benton, a writer who proposes to make the date of November 9th even more memorable by meeting once a year on that date. What starts off as a chance encounter builds to something deeper, but there's more to Ben than Fallon realizes, and perhaps this has all just been an elaborate lie to make life more enticing. Is it a good story when the ending ends in heartbreak? So I bought this one on a whim because I knew I was going on vacation and I wanted like a fun, juicy, enticing book, and did this deliver. This was very juicy and exciting and it really made it hard to put down. I was hooked by the first scene. It really intrigued me and it really was something that I was captivated by, and then it just lured me right in and I was stuck to these pages trying to figure everything out and read the story that developed between the main characters, Ben and Fallon. I ended up devouring this book in less than a day. It was so much fun. Colleen's writing was very addicting and it was very easy to read along and get sucked right into this story. The whole time I was reading this book too, I was trying to figure out Ben's motives, because even on the back blurb it gives a bit of like maybe Ben doesn't have the best intentions going into this. So I was very much trying to unravel some of what he was putting out and trying to see like what are his true intentions, especially since this book was really interesting because it does give you the dual point of view. So you're getting not only the first person point of view of Fallon, but you're getting that first person point of view of Ben. So you're getting inside his mind and you're seeing his thoughts and his feelings and kind of his point of view. So I was very intrigued to see how this was going to play out in this type of book, because I was like, okay, is it going to be along the same lines of The Silent Patient, where he's an unreliable narrator and there's going to be some big twist that happens that makes me end up hating him? Like, that's kind of how I was almost wondering this whole time. But even with that in the back of my mind, thinking maybe I'll end up hating him, I still was annotating it and still putting in like where they were getting pretty lovey-dovey and stuff, and some of my favorite quotes and things. Like, I really annotated the heck out of this one. I didn't write anything in the books yet because all I was doing was just tabbing it when it was like, okay, I like that. Okay, that's a juicy scene, or that's like a sexy scene, or that's a scene of like them falling for each other. And because this is got very much the love story throughout it, and that's kind of what is interesting on trying to ravel is it a genuine love, and is it something that is worthy of each other? So it was a very interesting read in that way. There's also some definitely, even though I was tabbing it of like, okay, that's juicy, there are some pretty like cringe moments too, or some moments where Ben's character came off a bit possessive or kind of that alpha male, even though they joke about that throughout the book because Ben is a writer and Fallon is a reader, and they're kind of coming together on that and discussing that. So it was interesting sometimes to see how he would come off as not as, you know, the best. Sometimes there was a bit of kind of red flags a little bit here and there, and that just made me wonder that much more. Okay, is this just feeding into what an awful character he's going to turn out to be. And so I kept waiting to see, when is that big reveal gonna come out? I loved the premise of the book though, on like the date, and how the whole book is they're going to meet up once a year on November 9th and make that like a special day between the two of them, and really build a relationship between the two of them only one day per year. And so that was really interesting to see that, and how that kind of played out, and that not only the scenes that happen, but just their character development too between each other as a couple. I thought it was fun too, because it really was trying to keep Fallon on focusing on herself and some of her own goals, and like hers, because she's a very young character when this book starts. She's only about 18 years old, and so being 18, you want to have some chance to kind of discover yourself before you fall in love. So that's kind of the premise too, as well, of the undertone, is being able to have a bit of her own self-development and discovery before she gives herself over to a man. And so it's interesting to see that, and I did like that as well, because I think that's sometimes very important, is to make sure that you are yourself and you have that personal identity before you go attaching yourself to someone else, because it's very easy to then just give up everything for their goals and their needs. Of course, sometimes that also was infuriating too, because they would go on and have their complete separate lives, and then they would get back together, and it'd be like, okay, what's going on? Kind of get us caught up on what's happening. So it was very much like something I loved, but also something I was like, about, but I ate it all up. I absolutely loved it and ate it all up. There are some moments too, like here, like my guide shows that I tagged it as like my romance, love, my character, Ben's secret, Fallon's secrets, any vulnerabilities or sad moments, favorite quotes, and funny. And you will see there's a lot of purple, which was my funny, because there were quite a few funny scenes. There's a lot of pink, which was my romance, kind of steamy scenes. There's a little bit of blue hiding in there for some of their vulnerability. And there's a whole lot of yellow, because there's a whole lot of points when I would be like, what is Ben hiding? What is going on? What is this big secret, and what is this maybe other life that maybe he's living? And they were definitely mentioning about the blue and like those vulnerability or sad moments. There were definitely quite a few times when this book just made me cry, and it was very sad, especially in some of those final moments that were unveiled and you got to kind of see what was all going on. That was definitely something that really hit me in a lot of ways. This one was one that I have seen Colleen Hoover's name all over the place. I mean, one of her more popular books is It Ends With Us, which I have, which is on my TBR for this month, though this one was a little bit smaller and a little bit of a different storyline, so I was kind of more intrigued by this one. This one I just know it's going to be a bit of a brutal read because of the kind of subject that's in this. But this one I was really interested in, but it really makes me understand why she's been floating around a lot as someone that some readers really love and readers really enjoy, because she was a really fun book to read. It was really interesting reading this book, and I liked her writing style, and overall I just really did, like, I devoured this in less than a day, and sometimes that's not very common for me, but in this one I was hooked, and I stayed up pretty late reading it until I was done, because I wanted to know all of it and I couldn't put it down. So this one was very fun read, and it really makes me excited to get into It Ends With Us and read more of that book. But for me, the November 9, it's teetering between a 4 and a 5, because some of it with the, you know, relationship and some of the red flags does make it me not really appreciate as much, but then some of it too just gripped me, and it was so interesting, and I enjoyed it so much that it also does teeter as a 5. So it's like a bit of like a 4.5 for me. I mean, I'd probably go more 4-star, because I don't know how much I would read it again as a 5-star, but it's one that I really did enjoy and really appreciated. And like I said, I annotated the heck out of it because I had so many feels and thoughts when I was reading it that it was definitely a very fun read, and I really love it. I love the cover too. It's so pretty. Like, I love just like the blue and then like that pop and that the way it's like exploding from this like flower. It's very interesting. The more I think of it, sometimes I'm like, but there's just so much that did make it like a 5-star read, because there's just like so much to it and some of the twists and turns and but then I could see almost where in some ways it could be a 5-star if maybe we had a bit more built out, because it was such a fast read, and in some ways that was like what made it exciting and fun, but in some ways that's also how maybe I didn't get to know some of the other characters as much, because we only get to see Fallon and Ben, and they are such the central characters, and we really only see them. We're not really seeing as much about Fallon's mom or even like her dad or anything, or any of Ben's family. Like, we only see little glimpses of them, so would have been fun to see a little bit more of them. But of course the whole point is around the 2 central characters, so it also does make sense that they're our focal point and we are really just focused on them and learning more about them. So I did enjoy the read. Again, I would have almost liked to see more of like their backstory of like who they were prior to some of these events and kind of some of that. But overall, November 9th is a very, very special day in so many ways. And it's really something that I am glad I read and I really enjoyed. So I encourage you to check it out if you haven't read it. If you haven't read any Colleen Hoover's writing, go ahead and check it out, because it was definitely a fun read and I really did find it spicy and enjoyable. I will say also, like, again, another reason it's really leaning towards a 5-star for me is because of the writing, because the way that Colleen breaks this up is she breaks it up into like little sections of the different times that they meet, like the different years on the November 9th. And I think that was incredible the way she did that. And then, like I said, we had that dual POV. So we had that looking at Ben's point of view and at Fallon. And when she's just giving us those glimpses and we're seeing just little bits from either one person's point of view or the others and just trying to fill in the gaps, like, that kept me hooked. And that kept me like, what is this big reveal? What is gonna happen? Like, who is Ben? And that was really well done. I really do like applaud how well she kept me kind of wondering and trying to peel back the mystery and figure out what's going on. And so that I really did appreciate, and I thought made it more lean towards a 5-star. So that's why I'm on a bit of a cusp, because there's some bits where I'm like, oh, but then there's some bits where I'm like, wow, like, so it could easily be one or the other, like, depending on my mood or what I'm thinking about the book, because it was a really good book in her writing style and just giving us enough to keep us like guessing and wanting more, but also kind of making it so you're not giving away everything. Like, the little sprinkles she put in, just really fun reading it. So again, it's definitely like a 4.5-star for me, because it was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. So I'm gonna cut it because I can just keep rambling and rambling. So overall, I enjoyed this book and it was a really fun read for keeping me entertained on my vacation, because we were traveling and I was in the car, and as soon as we got out of the car, I went up and just like kept reading it, because I was like, no, I gotta finish this book today. I gotta find out what's happening right now. And I did, and it was wonderful, delightful. Like I said, crying, tears, just emotions, but really fun and lots of thoughts on it. So really, really enjoyed this one, and I encourage you to check it out if those kind of books maybe intrigue you. So that's gonna be it for me. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give it a like, all that fun stuff. Have you read the book? What do you think? Leave your comments below. I'd love to hear it. If not, I hopefully will see you in another one. So have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourself, and you will see me next time. Bye!